this side of the spectrum while bringing inspirational and impactful people that are doing the work to get other people to save themselves, to heal themselves, to transcend any and everything that they've been going through, right? And today I have Cosmic Byron in the seat. This is amazing, man.
Let's go,
Founder
King. Let's
and
get it.
creator of the Shift Academy, with his academic prowess focuses on neurobiology, neuroscience, with a concentration in human and cognition behavior. And he's also the author of I Am She, The Power of Adversity, and A Dose of Self-Love. I'm gonna need y'all to give it up for Brother Byron. How you doing, man? It's a pleasure to have you in the seat, brother.
Hey, I appreciate this opportunity. Like I was telling you before, King, I'm in that space of honestly, the gratitude is immense and I am ready for the opportunity. So let's freaking get it.
Yes, sir. To tell the people about yourself, how did you even get into this line of work that you're doing today?
It honestly started from like majority of us, man. Rock bottom for my version of rock bottom was heartbreak. So being in a relationship, I'm gonna go ahead and put the title on it. It was definitely like a non-healthy relationship that inspired me to understand human cognition, how we think, how we process emotions, how we show up for ourselves, our conditioning, our reinforcements, and that led me into psychology. But for me, psychology just wasn't enough. I needed something a bit deeper, more molecular. So it brought me into like the realm of neuroscience and neurobiology, understanding like neurotransmitters, that like the depths, the core, the atomic of everything, of literally breakup, love, how we show up for ourselves, existence, thought patterns, the whole nine, bro. And it just took me for a spiral and I surrendered, man.
Yes, so see, I like that you really focused on the psychology and the neuroscience aspect of it, because when people come to me for advice, I tell them that I don't like the idea of trying to prescribe you something. I don't think that that's going to help you. It's the only thing that's happening is that whatever you're doing physically is just a manifestation of what's happening internally, right? So there's no
Absolutely.
need for me to give you anything outside of you to get you to transcend something emotional that's happening within you, right? And I agree. I think that for men in particular, it's either the world or a woman that ends up making us make that
Right.
shift into kingdom. You see what I'm saying?
Hey, and I'm grateful for both, man. Like whatever impetus it takes for an individual to actually come to the realization that it's time, like that's what I'm nudging for. And it's always the mindset of it's for me, not against me. So when I take that particular mindset of it's for me, I'm able to, like you said, to transcend it and augment that experience into something beyond. But if I take that victimization mentality of this is happening to me, I spiral downward, you know?
Mhm.
But everything, no coincidence, everything is intentional. So it's one of those, if I do spiral downward, there is something within that spiral that can possibly propel me up once again. But for me, it took that heartbreak, it took that experience of being in love. And that was my first time too, bro. I
Really?
was one of them toxic men, like, yo, I'm never getting married, I'm never getting in a relationship, like just objectifying women, that whole nine, bro.
Mhm.
That one girl got me, hooked me, bro. I was a fish on a hook. But
Yeah.
once that thing came to like an end and I just seen how I was showing up, how I was acting, how the dynamic spiraled, the mindsets of both of us, it was just one of those to where like, hey man, there's something to be learned here. And that just took me for, I need to get in school. I need to learn this stuff. I need to pick up books. I need to start self-reflecting. I need to start meditating, a whole nine. And here we are today.
Yeah, see that it was the same thing for me up until, I guess you can say, 2020 until 2021. I met this woman, and things seemed to just spark right out the gate, and I found myself being more vulnerable than I've ever been in my life. And some would say that I allowed myself to be broken open, but what I realized throughout healing is that I gave myself permission to do that because it's what I needed in that moment. And even though it was something short, I cannot tell you how often after it ended that I just sat there in the darkness and at the bottom of the pit, just blaming myself, shaming myself for being vulnerable, because the condition is that, oh, if you're vulnerable, a woman is going to use that against you. You should have never opened yourself up, because now here you are again, that same old thing that's happening. But when I sit back and I think about it, as I've done over the years, it's like, well, no, because throughout that process, you taking the time to, like you said, reflect on yourself, saw what you learned and gained from that, and do your best not to put yourself in a victim mindset. Take accountability for one, choosing that type of woman, even though we didn't know, or some would say that we did know. Take accountability for choosing that woman, and then two, introspect, find out what it is you can do better. If you know for a fact that you don't want to be like these toxic kings that's out here, and you want to do something different or step into true kingdom, what does that take? I look at that as a responsibility, right? One of the things that, one of the quotes that I put on my feed is that everybody is fixated with the, how do I say it? Give me a second. Everybody likes the idea of the king, but nobody wants to accept the responsibility of the throne.
I love
And
that one.
that
Yeah.
is, it's leaning more into that, is something that I've always integrated within myself. It's not so much about the accolades as much as it's about how are you taking care of other people. If somebody comes into your life at this point in time, that's how the universe presented them to you then. It's not
Right.
up to me to try and change and dictate the course of your journey, because what's going to happen between us is going to happen regardless.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Love that,
Yes.
man.
Yes. So you this book, I Am She,
Right.
how are women able to read it, take something from it, and apply it to themselves? Because I actually bought that book as a gift from a woman last year. Hopefully, she read it. If not, she still has it. But I
Right.
chose that book to get for her because I could see that she was going through something at that point in time. But I Am She kind of stuck out to me the most because within our women today, I see that there's a lot of turmoil internally that's going on with them. So, what are some of the aspects that some women can learn from I Am She?
I'll put it like this. What even inspired me to write the book? So I believe in existential psychology. So just the idea that like our fate does come, our physical state does definitely come to an end, right? And it's the ideology behind, for me, I needed to write a book for my daughter in case, because right now she's only 4 years old. So like as she grows, of course, like I'm instilling in her, I'm showing her multiple facets of the universe and stuff of that nature, but she's 4. So the concepts in which she's able to conceptualize aren't so expansive yet.
Mm-hmm.
So worst case, I'm not here as she gets older. I've written A Dose of Self-Love for her and I Am She for her. So these are basically my observations of an awakening woman in her journey, in her process, coming into the blossom flower in which she is destined to become. So with these entries, it's like it's kind of one of those that reminds me of not a step-by-step manual of how to, but it's more so of the introspection aspect of, you know what, I can relate this particular aspect to this life, I mean to my particular life, this aspect to my life, and this aspect to my life. How can I awaken and make it my own? So not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily, hey, you need to be X, Y, and Z, but hell, if you want, you can be A, F, and Z. Like you can
Mm-hmm.
like manipulate and create like the own spectrum of how you want it to actualize on your
Mm-hmm.
own. But here are some teachings, some foundations, and some guide points. So like that was the gist for I Am She, just to write towards my daughter, speak to her exactly how I would speak, and again my observation of just observing the awakened woman within her own divine environment. So like
Right.
that's what that was about, you know?
So
So
in
it's more
sen-
so about like the self-reflection of her developing from off this foundation and
Mhm.
blossoming into the type, color, shape, size of whatever divine flower she wants to become.
Mhm. So
You know,
essentially, it's you've laid out a foundation for her, and then she builds on that foundation based on the based on the guidelines that you set for her. I was just having that
within that
conversation.
foundation, if she wants to move pillars around, she's able to do that as well. You know, it's just like how you said, like the foundation, but that foundation is adjustable and malleable just as well. You know, like
Right.
I encourage the independent thinking on her behalf, like that conscious state of being present for herself and like even like questioning me. Like if it's something that she doesn't agree, man, in my household, I was taught to question stuff, but adults,
Mhm.
they deem that as disrespect. So it's like little foundational stuff that I did practice inside the house that once I went outside the house, I was met with resistance. So
Mhm.
again, it was like, how am I going to maneuver? And I wanted to take that same ideology, that same thinking, and apply it in an actual book for her to digest mentally.
I love that you did that because I don't have any children, right? But my brother does have children. And with you being a black man who has a daughter, that's a high responsibility for you, especially in society today. You know, I can only imagine the amount of questions and thoughts that you have within yourself, trying to ensure that you do it as correct as possible, right? And this is a perfect example of how she'll be able to embody her own divine feminine and walk within that without needing society to tell her who
Right.
she is or how she needs to be, because that also happens to women today as well. Women get caught up in the, well, if you don't move in this way, then that's not correct. But every woman expresses their divine feminine in a different way.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And that was just one of the biggest things that I just had to be a voice, a prominent voice, and have different modalities for her to actually, like, for instance, like with the self-love card game, if she doesn't want the book, she got a game. If she doesn't want the game, she got a deck. If she doesn't want that, she has another book. It's just like different modalities to create that stamp that, here, baby, you got this. At least let's explore this, you know? And by helping myself and helping my daughter, I already know, like, I've helped thousands already by just putting that content out, being vulnerable enough to express, to observe, and to articulate my visions, my perspectives of how I observe the environment. And just like the response, mind blowing, you know?
Yes, sir.
But my intentions were for my daughter, but now the
Has
work is a piece.
has your daughter taught you anything recently that's kind of just blown your mind?
Listen, man, I'm not gonna front. Me being my background is military as well. So like
Mhm.
I've always been go, 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 go. My daughter has immensely taught me to slow the F down and
Mhm.
be present. So when I'm
Mhm.
talking, I'm like, meditation was before her, right?
Right.
But this level of meditation, this level of being present, it has like significantly, like, it's to the point where I connect with my heartbeat now. You know, I
Yes.
connect with like actual, like, my pulsations throughout my body, like my blood flowing throughout my body. I'm able to
Mhm.
connect on that level. Before it was just, okay, I'm gonna be quiet and just sit here and I'm good. Like, let me just focus on my breathing.
Yeah.
But just dealing and interacting with her, and even teaching and taking her to like ice baths with me, or like doing meditation and stuff, flow therapy and stuff, it's one of those to where like she's truly taught me a new level of being present, a new level.
That's something that a lot of people today struggle with. I tell people
Right.
all the time, like, there's no reason for you to be on the dating market. There's no reason for you to be outside. You need to go sit your ass on the couch and just feel and see what comes up for you. A lot of people find that extremely difficult to do. And I think it's because you're going to be faced with all of the demons that you've created, right? You sitting in that and truly tapping into and allowing yourself to feel whatever it is that's going on. I used to not be able to do that. I used to, in a sense, shame myself for having these emotions, but I think that that was due to my lack of ability to articulate what I was feeling because I thought it was wrong, right? But as you
Right.
said, just like how your daughter was able to teach you true presence, that's a
Right.
gift within itself because now you're doing that all the time, pretty much.
Right. I mean, honestly, who really wants to sit with the shadow self? Like, that shit ain't for the weak, man.
It's
Like,
not.
listen, when skeletons come out, man, like, it's no denying it. And what it reminds me of cognitively, like, once you see something, you can't unsee it. Like, you can
Let
try
go.
your
Yeah.
hardest to suppress that shit, whether you implement or like introduce supplements to try to like, or substances to try to suppress that. But
Hmm.
once you see it, it's there, bro. So
Yes.
now it's like, I'm the type, I gotta go head on with it. You know what? Okay, you surface, me and you one on one. How can we create a mutual dynamic here? I'm not trying to shame myself. I'm not trying to like suppress it. I'm not trying to avoid it. I actually want to understand it. So like that's my biggest part. Like, now that this skeleton of the shadow self has exposed itself, how can we begin to mesh and create a healthy coping mechanism? And
Hmm.
that's my biggest part. So like being present and being able to tap in inwardly, that's
Yes.
what literally comes up, man.
I
So
love that. Does that because I study a lot of Carl Jung, and he says that you really
yeah,
don't know much about yourself until you really look
yeah,
at the evil version of you. Just as how there might be a hero aspect of you, there's an evil version of you. Like everybody likes to think that they're Mufasa, but you don't really know who you are until you accept that you are Scar. There are
right,
parts of you that that are malicious. There are parts of you that have that animalistic nature to it. I remember in the early stages of me going through my shadow work, I would study villains from like Marvel, from DC. I would watch movies and really try to understand their perspective, because what you find is that a lot of people resonate with the villain more than they do with the hero. And I think that
Right.
that's because it's real. Take
It's
Killmonger and T'Challa for an example. It's
right.
like Killmonger might have not been coming from it from the standpoint of, hey, we need to go out here and do this. He's like, nah, we need to do this today. We need to get out there and do this now. A lot of people aren't really able to receive that, but I think that is something that's necessary because it's the rawest form of us. It'll expose everything about you.
It reminds me of like that the persona, like majority out pro-social
Mm-hmm.
mannerisms is what we do when we get out in front of people. How do we want these people to view us? So we put
Mm-hmm.
that persona on, we put that fucking clown, I call it a clown mask.
Yeah.
We put that on, and this is how we want the world to perceive us. This is how we want to be represented within the world. But behind that fucking persona, behind that mask, like you said, resides the scar. Now, even the scars on a spectrum. Our entire existence, behavioral mannerisms are on a spectrum. So my
Mm-hmm.
thing is like, even once you start compartmentalizing certain aspects of you, you realize that the evil aspect, and remember, I'm using evil like in a very relative form, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying like you out here killing people or like the far extremes, but there are a spectrum when it comes to the evil, and just as there's a spectrum when it comes to the hero aspect of us.
Mm-hmm.
So tapping into both of those spectrums, exploring both of those spectrums, and presenting it in an authentic manner with no shame, no guilt, like that's where you ultimately win. That's where you ultimately begin to ascend. And like that's the mission that I've been on like for these past couple years that just
Mm-hmm.
have been like transformative. I'm referring to like health, cognition, mental, emotional, spiritually. I feel so liberated, bro. And when I
Mm-hmm.
say liberated, like I don't mean it in the lightest context of it all. I
Mm-hmm.
literally feel like if I stand up right now, I'm levitating.
He's been
Like
about to take off
it's
like the
that.
Avatar.
Like, I'm not trying to scare your folk on your platform. I get
Oh
up and
no, you
start
good,
shit,
man. Yeah,
you know.
be
But
authentic yourself. They love it.
but
Continue.
that's literally what it feels like to be able to truly face that aspect and face this aspect and merge together and create the authentic version of the self. You know.
I love that. I love that. Another question that I have for you, and I'm pretty sure you have something about this as well. In regards to the men today, black men in particular,
Okay.
what is something that you see that's missing, or what is something that you see that's being highlighted that the men are trying to step into, but they're meeting resistance? Well, what do you think that is?
The ability to be vulnerable, man.
Yeah.
Like we're not. What the fuck are you crying for? Real men don't cry. We don't show emotion. Like we are taught this hardened version of ourselves, man, and we are forgetting that we reside. We're first of all, we're multi-dimensional creatures, bro. We're
Mm-hmm.
forgetting that femininity and masculinity reside in each of us. We're
Mm-hmm.
forgetting that there is an aspect, a softness, a tenderness of us that wants to actually come out and surface and interact with the world as well. But again, we are taught not to cry, not to express emotion, objectify women. Like it's in our music, it's in our movies. Like the depiction of how to be a quote unquote black male is
Mm-hmm.
shown so vividly and so inaccurately. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's only what a certain demographic wants that black demographic to actually be.
Mm-hmm.
When, bro, like you and I both know it's way beyond. So
It
just
is.
the ability to tap into emotion, the ability to effectively express emotion, like just starting there alone is where it all begins, bro. Because again, like we aren't real with our. I'm not generalizing everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but just in the idea of it's time to express what is internally built. Because ultimately, what busts pipes is pressure, bro. And emotions are literally pressure. They're
Mm-hmm.
energy in motion. But when we hold on to it and we create that stagnation and don't release it, don't give it an outlet, what happens? We end up getting in trouble because it's
Mm-hmm.
a misutilization of our energy.
Right, right.
So
And
like that's my biggest point.
the brothers also find that to be very difficult too, because you would agree
Absolutely.
that, it's let's say you try to be vulnerable one time and the woman doesn't receive it well. You say, okay, she doesn't receive it well. You go out and you do it again. The brothers continue to find somewhat of a resistance from the feminine not being able to receive a man being vulnerable in that aspect. And I'm not saying, crying every day or, complaining or moaning about certain things, but really expressing deep down traumas that they're working to overcome. So with that resistance that they face daily, do you recommend that we still stay true to ourselves and express our emotions in a healthy and articulate way, even though sometimes it may not be received well?
So that's funny. One of my clients just like 2 days ago, I was talking to him about, he has it also a large reflection. It's really like a yin and yang thing here, because the way that we show up is what we actually attract to. So if we're showing up in this particular dynamic a certain way, our partner is going to show. We are attracting a particular partner that's not going to be receptive to the opposite or opposition to what we actually are internally, the authentic version. So here it is. This partner has been attracted to you this particular way, but now you're trying to heal and show up in a particular different light. Your partner's not receptive to that because your partner's operating on a certain frequency and signed up for this package deal in a different state of mind. But ultimately what I end up seeing is it's really time to go to therapy, man. If you aren't able to communicate with your partner effectively, there are two things. I'm just gonna be blunt. It's time to kick that fucking partner to the curb. But first, absolutely communicate. Communicate first and attempt in a non-confrontational way. Be honest, be vulnerable, and be thorough. Communicate that to your partner. If that's something that your partner is not ready to experience, there's no reason in this world for an individual to be stagnated because of a partnership at all. So my thing is either communicate, let that partner go, or heal together. Go to therapy together and do what needs to be done in order to expand and augment that relationship as a unit. But most of the time I see like when that individual is ready to start healing, that other individual is not. And I'm absolutely not saying just like throw it all away and just get rid of it. Do some hard work, give it all that you have. And if it's still not being met with cohesiveness, then it's really time to reconsider like that particular dynamic. And so when it comes to that therapy, like, again, even in there, like create a dynamic where you feel safe enough to be vulnerable. Because going into therapy, trying to hold back, trying to not relinquish all that is internally, you're not benefiting yourself. One, you're wasting your money, your time, and your energy. So you want something that's actually going to be met with that therapist that's actually going to create a beneficial environment, a healing environment, especially when it comes to traumas, especially when it comes to mindsets and emotions. You want something that's, again, that's going to be beneficial. So if that particular dynamic is not it, then we need to find another therapist and don't give up. Just like I'm not going to front. When it comes to us trying to copulate and have sex with an individual, we pull out all the stops. We don't stop at nothing. We keep going. We keep trying to find different techniques, new outfits, new places to go, the whole nine. And it's the same concept when it comes to us trying to heal. We don't need to stop. Okay, this door is closed. This door is locked. It doesn't work. We're going around. So it's like take that same mindset, that same ideology, and keep moving forward until we meet that cohesiveness, that doorway that it was specifically designed for us to go through. And that's how I feel about that one, for sure.
Thank you. Me being in therapy recently, after everything that's transpired over the last couple of years, I've learned a lot about my ability to be honest with myself and not shame myself for what I've gone through. And recently, after I guess you can say a connection that I had with a woman, what I find is that it's exactly what you said. One, you meet people where they are, and two, even though you're actively healing, you're doing the work yourself. That might be in a way triggering to that person because they now know that it's required for them to do more. And currently, where they are in their journey, they may not be able to do that because they're so tight and their guard is up so much. They're thinking to themselves, who is this person, man or woman, to walk into my life and hold me accountable from a healthy place? They're not here to coddle you. They're not here to coddle your feelings, but they're honest with you about what it is that they see that they're experiencing within you and what's being experienced with the whole of the relationship. And some people tend to leave from that, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. I find that during the time of us being with that person, our job, either person, is just to plant the seed, right? I'm not here to tell you how to do it. I'm not here to hold your hand through it. I'll walk alongside you with it, and I'll highlight some aspects that you may be afraid to look at. And again, that might be triggering. That person might not be ready for that. But the important thing is that, listen, are you in a space right now where that you're able to face this? And if not, that's okay. But at
Right.
some point, you have to look at it. And I think we have to get to a place of understanding that sometimes, or the majority of the time, that's done alone, which
Right.
that's where the relationship comes to an end, or you go your separate ways and you wish them the best.
Right. Like that's honestly like that isolation, man. Like at first, it was that codependency factor for me.
Definitely for
I
me as well.
needed, I'm not even gonna say I wanted, I definitely needed that individual with me, right? So once I found that the isolation is often required, I had to start my reframing work. I had to start switching up my paradigm and shift my paradigm towards, okay, how is this actually gonna be for me? So I started, for some reason, bro, when it comes to Mother Nature always has the answers for me. And for me, this particular message was about a butterfly cocoon. So when it's time for that butterfly, yeah.
I've said that, man. I'm like, the shadow work is, I told my friend this, I was like, bro, it's like being in a cocoon. And he was like, it's tightly knit in this bitch.
Right. Literally, specifically, though, like
definitely.
it's needed that. Like it's just you. It's you in that space. You, your thoughts, emotions, sensations, everything. So like now, like you actually got time to process. And when you are done through that metamorphosis phase, bro, it's time to spread them fucking wings, break out of that catalyst, and fly. And like that's literally where I'm at right now. Like my wings have been spread and I'm flying. You know, like it's never, for me, it's never about the destination, always the journey. So like I'm flying, but I'm not to the ascended height in which I know I could be, but that's just part of the journey. But I know for a fact I got these wings and they are spread, bro, you know?
Yes. And what I learned too, because I started looking up the process of a caterpillar to a butterfly, I found out that we don't know what determines a moth from a butterfly. Like you come out as either or. And I find that to be very interesting. I think that if we're speaking from a human spiritual perspective, I think that that's based on how honest you are with yourself within that process of you just being there with yourself, journaling, crying, shedding tears, listening to music, doing whatever you need to do to heal. But ultimately, we need to not rush that process. I think a lot of times we get fixated on scrolling through the gram and TikTok and seeing somebody else here and they traveling to Punta Cana or Jamaica, and you just like when is it going to be my turn?
But you seeing the end result. You're not seeing what happened and transpired previously to that. Or you probably seeing something that's not even real, and here you are basing your aspect, your existence off a freaking picture or a video, bro.
Yes.
We definitely got to be mindful, man.
We have to, I think that more authentic men and women like ourselves need to become more comfortable with sharing that aspect of how we're healing on social media. Because I think that within this spiritual war that we're going through right now, a lot of people are thirsty for the truth, and a lot of people are thirsty for authentic connection with self and just not being afraid of anything, right? And that can be used against people because people are so hungry for an answer of how to get through this healing phase, of how to get through this pain, of like, what do I need to do to get to the next step? And just like how you're saying, if you're able to just be and sit in it, that's more than enough for you. And the fact that you're able to show up for yourself every day, whether you're crying, whether you happy, whether you sinking 23s in the gym or whatever, that's you showing up for yourself on a daily basis. And a lot of people don't, in my assertion, give themselves grace for their process, because they're so focused on getting to the end destination.
And even like how you were just mentioning about like, yo, show the bloopers. Like for me, like when I'm having writer's block, when I'm writing a book, or I'm trying, like, hell, there was a point where even like I showed like a huge mess up on my end at one of my investment properties. Like, show the behind the scenes, bro. Like, people want to see that transparency. We all go through it, but when you are looking for the external validation, like I find it so often to where you are only showing the wins because you are afraid of that disapproval from the external. And it's like with me, if I'm really devoted to showing up in my authentic self, I'm showing the entire journey, bro. The entire journey. Like if I lose, for me, it's definitely not even about losing. Like that L for me, and I'm sure it represents for you the same. It represents lesson, man. So
Yes,
like
sir.
now I know I'm gonna start with a new level of sagacity and be able to elevate that into something of a W for me. So like that's the biggest thing. Show the lessons, show the wins, show the journey. And like Gary Vee always says this, man, document the process. Like that's the true way in creating content, especially for me. Like now I don't even have to think about what content I'm gonna create because I'm literally just documenting the process. The shit that I was already gonna do that day, I'm just recording it now. So
That's
like
it.
now, like my whole mind frame is just like it's relieved. I don't have to sit there and try to be like super creative. It just naturally flows out now.
Yes, and I went through that process as well when I was a personal trainer, and I felt like I was whoring myself out for likes and clients, and then it hit me like this isn't really me. I was trying to find my IG persona name, right? And then I realized I was like, bro, you already have your name. You were given your name. People come to you and they rock with you because of who you are. And
Absolutely.
the work that you're doing is bigger than getting somebody to have a six pack or be able to do 5 pull-ups, right? Speaking to what you said about external validation, my mom and my brother just came out here to Germany to visit. Her first time out of the States, and she loved it. Traveling, eating Belgian waffles, wanted to take a whole barrel of wine with her back to the States. I'm like, Mom, you can't do that. Just leave that here. Just enjoy it.
Mommy
So
about to get caught smuggling.
yeah, I'm like, yeah, no, you can't do that. So I actually sat her down and I asked a very hard question. And I said, Mom, was there any reason why you were not able to show enough love or give me enough affection growing up? And that was hard for me to ask that question. Now I remember the therapy session. I was kind of shaky just talking to him about it. But I was like,
Right.
nah, I want to do this because I don't want to transition into my 30s with this still on me. And she looked at me and she was like, I was in survival mode. Black woman, two sons. She was born in the 50s. She's a product of her generation who were being raised and living out through true institutionalized coloreds and whites. She explained that side of the story to me, and with her doing that, I was able to see how that manifested in my love life by seeking external validation from women. So if any woman even looked at me in a certain way or thought that I was cute or that I was handsome or whatever, I would latch on to that. And in a sense, start people pleasing to get that validation that I didn't receive. But I would always, again, get left for somebody else, get broken up with, or you're too nice, ABC wants you to. And I'm like, well, what the hell is the problem? Like, what's going on? And so after having that conversation with her, I was able to conceptualize it and realize that she unconsciously passed it down on to me. So I was still moving within that
And
frame
that's
of
maybe an
mindset as well, right? But I realize now that I don't have to prove to a woman in particular and myself, more importantly, that I'm him, that I'm a good man, that I was raised with the foundation of just being who I am authentically. And
right.
that isn't me needing to seek external validation. Like, I'm gonna open a car. If you my woman, you're gonna get the car door open. That's just what's gonna happen. That's just how I am. That's not me needing to seek or gain anything from you. But learning that from mom, that conversation, it really helped me release that aspect and learn more about her. And then I was able to explain to her as well as like, you're not in survival mode anymore.
Right.
You don't need to fight. Because she felt that the conversation was very, she had a guard up. She's like, oh, this is uncomfortable. I'm like, but mom, you're not in any danger. It's comfortable for all of us, but this is healing for all of us. More importantly, for you as well.
Yeah, I'm not gonna front that same dialogue, that same conversation on my end with my mom as well. Like for me, like so I'm adopted, never met my biological parents. Like the sense of being like given up at 6 months old, no father figure, like just that whole nine, right? So like having that same dialogue with my mom, there was just one added element, like the overcompensation of like the masculine energy within the
Mm-hmm.
feminine within my mom. So seeing that, realizing that, it was just one of those to where like, yo, like my mom is so hardcore. Like, of course, I got the I love yous and stuff like that, but it felt different. It didn't feel nurturing. It didn't feel like it truly felt like you said, survival mode. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just one of those to where like not realizing or seeing how my actions basically perpetuated even more overcompensation. Like me trying to figure out the world, me trying to explore, me sneaking out, me doing this. My mom now really had to step in survival mode, really had to step in her masculine energy, forgetting her femininity, forgetting her softness, forgetting her nurturing elements, forgetting her teaching elements, and really just reside in that. So here I am watching that. And it's just funny because like I seen it evolve into something like, if I even met a masculine energy within a woman, I'm basically gone. Like I didn't want nothing to do that, because throughout my childhood, that always resonated with me with getting in trouble. Like that's what my mind started associating with. I didn't want to have to go through that. I didn't want to have to get a whooping. Of course, it wouldn't be a whooping in the relationship, but like the brain associates that with what it represented within the childhood. So asking her that, it was a dope conversation. Of course, like there wasn't a lot of accountability because like that mentality still has not really been met and healed, but it's definitely a seed planted. And again, it basically, I don't know about for you, but for me, it really helped me understand why my mom acted in certain ways and why I viewed my mom in certain ways. But now like to reverse that, it's like she's literally doing what her parents have basically taught her to do. And it's just literally that cycle over and over and over again. But now that shit has met me, and that shit has met his match, because I'm healing from this shit. I'm not passing this shit down. Like I'm still, in some regards, still gonna fuck my daughter up in some way, some sort, some fashion, right? Like I'll just be honest, like all parents do in some regard. But for that, that's just not implementing our dynamic, you know, because it met me.
Yes, it's funny because she called me one day and she just went off on me. Just didn't even say hello. She just went off and she hung up the phone. And I was angry in that moment. But at the same time, I was like, no, let me not do this. So in the midst of us having a conversation, I was like, Ma, you remember that? She was like, yeah. I was like, nah, if I did that to you, what would you do? She said, oh, I curse you out. I'm like, you see, that's a problem. But ultimately, the undertone of that was that, son, I love you and I miss you, and it's been 2 years. And she busted out laughing. And I'm like, see, you laughing right now, but you couldn't just tell me that. You couldn't just call to say, son, I miss you. What's going on with you? I haven't seen you. But like how you're saying, it's really challenging for them because they're so rooted in their emotions that even the conversation is hard for them. You know, the parent needs to be correct at all times. The parent can never be wrong. But it's like, no, it's you're a human too. And that's one thing that you and I both realize is that growing up, you know, yeah, my mom is my mom, but then as we got older, oh, you're a person as well. You also went through things, and you might never had a space so that you can express what you went through due to you needing to provide for your children.
So now imagine here you come having that mature conversation with her, that triggering conversation. Is like, first of all, you my son, who the hell are you?
What are you doing?
Like, no, I'm the mom, you're the son. So it's one of those, but like I get it, and that's why like I'm starting so young with my daughter. If you feeling some type of way from something that I ask you or nudge you to do, express that. Tell me. I'm receptive. I'm getting down on my knees to talk to my daughter. Where eye level, like just that conscious parenting, like that shit takes a completely different mindset, bro. Like the idea of allowing my child to tell me no, other parents witness that. Of course, like it's in a respectful manner for both of us to be able to express ourselves. But other parents, again, like they view that as disrespect. It's not disrespect. It's us not forcing our ways onto our children to the point where our children don't even know who the hell they are once they get older. They're literally just following rhetoric because that's how they were taught growing up. Follow who's the authoritative leader. And that's not how it's going to go in this particular household. So again, like that conscious parenting, like it really takes a lot because it really makes you self-reflect on what tone am I using with my daughter? What position am I standing in when I'm talking to my daughter? What's my body language? What energy am I emitting? Like it takes all those components to consciously parent a child who 100% shows up in a light of, you know what, my emotions matter. Like she told me that to the other day, where not me, but she's playing like with her dolls, whatever, and she has one doll and she's like, my emotions matter. And I'm over there like, yo, this is freaking dope, man. Because again, they emulate through modeling. So like once I seen that, I was like, yes, bro, I'm doing my freaking job.
Yeah, you are. You definitely are. Congratulations to you for that as well, man. Because
Yeah,
it's a respect is a two-way street from child to parent, and it
right,
was really difficult for my mom to understand. I was like, Mom, you only see this as a one-way side of respect. I respect you because I choose to, because you're my mother, and because I love you. You how did I say it? You don't feel obligated to respect me because in your perception, I'm just your son. But
right,
that's not a healthy dynamic for us if we're going to be able to move through this, if we're both going to be able to heal from this. And it was really hard for her to understand, and even as difficult as the conversation was, I think that she really got something out of it because, as you said, I don't want to take that unconsciously onto my children if I'm ever blessed with some at any point in time. I want to be able to heal from it, learn what I can learn from my mom, and do precisely what you're doing. Just really have an open dialogue with my children because that will teach them how to express their emotions. What's the word? Brain fart. In a natural way. They won't feel like they
right.
have to suppress it because, you and I, you probably would agree to this, grew up in a generation where children are meant to be seen, not heard. That's not good.
Hey man,
Good.
literally, that should be a freaking book right there. That
Definitely.
title right there, you know how many times like I've heard that? Again, not from my mom, but definitely from like outside sources. So again, like
Mm-hmm.
my mom definitely taught in that regard. My mom definitely taught me express your emotions, express your thoughts in a respectful way. But again, once I took that same energy and applied it to like another parent or adult figure, it was definitely met with resistance. And just the idea of like children are meant to be seen and not heard, like that confused me because here I am, my mom in my ear telling me one thing, another adult telling me another thing. I respect them both, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
one of those like I'm confused. I don't know which way to go. So then I just started to become mute and not like express.
Same,
So
same.
like, yo, man, like tell me something. Like what do I do here?
What
You
is
know, like
correct?
I'm in a fork in the road, I'm just sitting down, bro.
Right. Yeah. I would always just sit and listen to them talk, and I'm observing everything. And in my head, I'm like, "You wrong. You definitely wrong. You don't really know what to say because she kind of just sensitive and she not used to speaking up." I'm like, "What's really going on around here? Like, oh, y'all don't talk. Like, honestly,
Right.
y'all ready to pull a Thule out right out the gate. Y'all ready
Ready.
for smoke
Ready.
instantly." And
Instantly.
it
All the
doesn't help
smoke.
them at all times. But it was a beautiful thing. Going back to it, I think that us being able to have those difficult conversations, you being able to converse with your daughter in the manner that you do, is what's going to help us lead them into the next generation. Because the age bracket that we're in, we're going to be the next old folks, right? So I like how Kendrick said it on his album. He's like, I'm sacrificing myself to start the healing. Man,
Yeah,
anybody who has not listened to that album, go listen to it. And anybody who
absolutely.
thinks that that's his worst album, you're not listening to it. That's just
That,
for the
that's
audience.
that's therapy in itself right there. That album is
Definitely,
literally him expressing what he's experiencing going to therapy, man. Like
definitely.
it's so much healing. I think he even has like skits in there about therapy sessions and stuff,
Hmm.
right? Yeah.
He does. He
And
does.
it's one of those to where like bro, he even matter of fact he even has a therapist on one of the outros.
Yes, he was talking. I know he met with Eckhart Tolle, and then I think that maybe that was his wife in one of the songs. He was like, a real nigga don't need no therapy, and she's like, you sound stupid. You need to
Oh
go
yeah.
talk to somebody. You need to go sit down.
Absolutely, man. Did you hear that one toxic at the skit? No, it was an actual song with him and the girl going back and forth, like with the
We Cry
toxic.
Together.
Yeah,
It's one
man.
of the most powerful songs on that album because I'm
Absolutely.
like, man, this is our generation, us in particular, black people, and
Right.
it's like, and then at the end, it's like have the conversation. That's the
Yeah.
important thing. Going back to what you said earlier, have that conversation. That way, because we don't need that. That doesn't help anybody at all.
I agree. I
At
agree.
all.
And I just feel like again, man, like to anybody even listening to this right now, it's one of those to where like if you feel like you don't have a safe outlet to express yourself to, and you aren't ready to fully commit to that therapy session, it's one of those to where open up a book and start journaling. I'm not gonna front that journaling tool is so powerful. Like to actually interact with and explore the depths of your thoughts, emotions, it is super powerful. It's super healing. I'm not saying journal entry number 1 is going to relieve all things, but like to commit to it and continuously like show up for yourself in a introspective manner, like there's just so much immense power within journaling. So I do recommend full-blown therapy, like that whole schema or that stain or taint against going to therapy. No, therapy is powerful, especially with the right facilitator. It's definitely powerful. Definitely.
It really is. I remember my first session. He was like, "All right, so why are you here?" And I was honest. I was like, "Cause I think this is what I'm supposed to do in my journey." And he looked at me. He's like, you've been doing some work." I'm like, "Yeah, but there's only so much self-regulation you can do. So I'm here now. I need somebody who's objective and who can point out the illogical ways that I've been thinking or going about things." And I started experimenting with actually using voice notes on my phone as a form of therapy if I'm not writing, right? So like if I'm in the car or if I'm just sitting down, I give myself like a 5 minute limit, and I'll just speak to myself. I'll just say whatever it is on my mind, whatever I'm feeling at that point in time, because saying it makes it real. You can write it, and there's nothing wrong with writing it, but I think that once you can voice it and actually hear yourself speak, you start to slowly let down the walls, and you allow your inner child to speak, because that is the person that's really trying to gain your attention. And if you're not safe enough within yourself, how are you going to feel safe enough with another person? That intimacy level that you have with you is directly correlated to the relation that you have with yourself. Otherwise, you won't be able to really form a lasting intimate connection with another human being. It requires you truly looking at yourself and having those difficult conversations with yourself.
Don't even get me started on that inner child, man. Like that's like most of us. Again, bro. What first of all, within our community, what the fuck is an inner child? First of all, like
Definitely.
that's where majority of it starts from. So like even throughout like my therapy sessions with my clients, it's one of those to where inner child, self-love, even the definition of what self-love represents, self-perspective, like just all those self introspective terms, never even heard of. And I get it, definitely not shaming or anything like that, but it shows me to the forefront that this is a problem within our
It's not being
demographic.
talked about
It's
at
not
all.
being talked about. Although, like, even the fact that psychology was created for Caucasians. So here it is to where, like, it makes sense for our demographic to not have full access to it or to even have even heard of certain aspects of it. So it's like, I make it part of my life's mission to implement and impregnate that particular information into the mind of other individuals. Absolutely, bro.
And do you have
Go
yeah,
ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead, continue.
I was just saying, like that inner child one is definitely one. Like I'm actually working on a book right now called The Healthy Inner Child. So it's life's work, bro.
Check that out once that comes out. I'm gonna definitely
Hey,
have to
for
buy that
sure. I
myself.
gotta
Yes,
send you
sir.
one too, man.
Definitely, definitely. What was the question I was going to ask? Oh, the process. Is there a particular process that you go through with your clients, or because I know that there's different types of sessions that people have. Like let's take Eckhart Tolle. Let's take Peter Crone. Even in some cases, Aubrey Marcus. A lot of these people have their own different processes. So, is there a particular process that you go through with your clients based on what they're
My
coming to
first
you
one
for?
is more like around Freud, Sigmund Freud's aspect, like talk psychology, and it's asks probing questions to allow the open-ended probing questions to allow the individual to just relinquish and throw it all up. And from there, it's bits and pieces. It's certain tonalities, it's certain pitches and voices, it's certain emotions that come out when certain words are especially said and especially repeated. And I pick up on those, I write those down, and those are the aspects of that particular session that we're going to focus on. So like some of the big ones are, matter of fact, just yesterday with the inner child, the ability to hear, I miss doing the things that I used to love doing when I was younger. Like just little key phrases like that, like explode in my mindset, inner child. So to even bring up the term inner child, what's the inner child? And I go on to explain what the inner child represents. And we start there. And now I'm asking probing questions related to the inner child. Tears start balling. This inconsolable crying. like just relinquishing it all, like all on the call, everything, right? Let
Mm-hmm.
that shit out, because all that is energy that has been bubbling at the
It's been
bottom,
trapped.
ready
Mm-hmm.
to come out to the surface and just be transmuted into different forms of energy. So from there, it's like, all right, so now let's just begin to explore and tell the inner child, first of all, that it's safe. There are no expectations here. It's all intention set functions. Let's just tell the inner child that it's safe. And when the inner child is ready to come out and poke its head out, say, I got you. That's it. We're not trying to have a full-blown session with the inner child here. This inner child just needs to know and feel safe. Don't worry about the inner child forgiving you. Trust me, the inner child has been forgiven you. It doesn't hold grudges, resentment, vindictiveness, or any of that in nature. It already knows. The inner child is you. The inner child knows that you had to go into survival mode. The inner child knows that a rock had to be built around it in order to protect it from what you were experiencing. It reminds me of, like, if my daughter's in jeopardy of some type of danger, first thing I'm doing, bro, I'm stepping in front of my child. I'm putting my child behind me. And it's the same concept with that inner child. When there's a threat in the environment, the inner child we begin to harden to protect their inner child. But now it's like piece by piece, layer by layer, we're breaking that that hardened rock from around the inner child, and allowing it to come out and surface and thrive in the particular environment. So like, that's one of my biggest ones. It's literally just allowing the individual to freely talk, to freely divulge. And again, I pick up on certain aspects, certain energy, certain frequencies, certain pitches and tones, and we dive deeper into that. And majority of the time, exactly where those pitches come in, like the elevator voice and things in that nature come into play, even body language, you can tell. Like, it's so visible.
They just sit there folded, or they lean back a lot to get away from you.
Like how you're doing right now with the lean back, and the individual sits up and starts talking like that. Like, you can tell, like, that's inner child requesting help. That's a certain aspect or a trauma event that is acting to surface. And uncontrolled, like, subconsciously, the body does that. It gives cues. So if we're trained enough to pick up on that, we're trained enough to actually dive into the depths of that and bring it to the surface.
Yes, definitely. The one term that I like to say is that we're just older or grown, younger versions of ourselves. Nothing really changes, right? Because however we chose to cope as a child, we cope that way as quote unquote an adult. It's just in a more extreme way, right? Alcoholism, substances, other ways or forms of escapism. Right. And I find that even I just bought a yo-yo recently to kind of tap more into that, to get myself producing more natural serotonin and dopamine. And I find that it's working, man. I sat on a swing, and I don't know in how long, and I was smiling ear to ear. I couldn't even control it. I'm like, this is right here. This is nice.
This is it. Hey, I'm telling you now, I got 2 kids. You want one? You'll be on the swing every day, bro.
Every day.
I'm on the playground. I'm running across the bridges at the playground. I'm on the monkey bars, bro. Like, and I'm truly having fun. I'm not on my cellular device, none of that stuff. Like, I'm so tapped into where, like, you couldn't tell me I wasn't 4 and 2 years old with them.
Right.
Literally, bro. Like, I'm truly having fun, not caring how I look, what I'm wearing, how I'm showing up, what other people are thinking. Like, and nothing against all the other parents, but majority of them just let the children play, like, and they just sit on the side. I'm doing this shit for me. Like,
definitely.
This ain't even about the kids. F the kids, bro. This is about me, man.
We both out there.
My inner child needed to come out, man. My inner child needed to know that it was safe enough to be on a swing set, to be on a bridge on the monkey bars playing, to paint, to do all these things that it used to love doing. Before the world, before I allowed the world to harden me. So,
and that's what happens. I think that it's like a cycle of life. I call it, there's a 3-part. You're born into the matrix. There's a certain age frame, and then you go into the crucible, and that's when, like, you're essentially battling yourself in the world, and then you go down into the depths of rebirth. But that rebirth is just you returning back to you, giving yourself the permission to stop being who you never were. Because at some point in time, you stepped out into the world just being free as a child. Somebody pointed a finger at you and told you no. And you didn't know how to speak. You didn't really know how to communicate. So you go home and you suppress that. You don't tell mom or dad about it. You go back out into the world. Oh, what are you wearing? Why are you wearing that? And then that cycle continues over and over again. Well, just like how you're saying, when you're with your children and you're out there, it's like, oh, you want race? You ain't ready for
Right.
that. Like you're not beating me. It's not
Bring all
happening.
the smoke. Bring all the smoke.
Yeah.
Sometimes I let Queen win, but yo, I have to let her know, like, listen, life ain't easy. You know, it's one of those to where like you're gonna get beat. How are we gonna handle that? You know? So like seeing her like the first couple of times, smoked her, bro. Like legit smoked her. And tears, man. And I was like, listen, that's okay. Show the emotion. I get it. Tell me how you feeling right now. I'm upset because I lost. Blah, blah, blah is what she like referred to me. And I was like, that's going to happen in life. Are we going to cry every single time that it happens? No, I don't want to cry every time that it happens. But just, I want you to hear me. It's okay to cry. Repeat that after me. Because again, bro, like I heard so many times, stop crying. Shut up before I give you something to cry about. Like that whole rhetoric,
It's
bro.
like you not
No,
depressed. I'm gonna
here.
depress your ass. It's like
Not here.
what?
Oh, you crying? Shit, you want me to cry with you? We can do this
Right.
together, you know? So it's just one of those to where like now let her win. And the funny thing is probably like the fifth time that we raced, it was like she called herself letting me win. I'm like, look at her, man.
She's like, you I'm the master in this.
And
You only just got here.
Had the nerve to ask me, am I okay? That I thought.
Yo,
I'm like,
I would have died laughing, man.
Bro, I love that she is getting it though. You know, like that's my part. I love that she's getting it. And again, it comes back to me being conscious. Like we wouldn't share these moments if I wasn't showing up. And if I wasn't doing the actual work. And like that's the imperative section of this. Like I'm doing the work, so like my kids are benefiting from the actual fruit of the tree. You know, like without me doing the work, I can only imagine. Only imagine.
It is. She is just a reflection of everything that you've gone through and everything that you continue to go through, and it's really beautiful to see because there's this whole notion that Black men aren't good fathers, deadbeat fathers, and it's like if only you knew. Like the stats show that the best father on the planet is a Black man, just across the board. Like there's nothing that will stop a Black man from being with his children, girl or boy. He will be there. He will go to the ends of the earth to be there. And you just being able to have this conversation with you has really solidified in my mind certain aspects of things that I want to adopt from when it's my season to have children, because I always think about that. Like how am I going to teach my kids? Am I going to be right at doing it? Have I learned enough? Have I healed enough to be able to transition this knowledge down to them? You know, a lot of those things really run through my mind, but you just having this conversation with you and having a reflection is enough to let me know that I'm already doing the work. And again, I'm proud of you, brother. This is beautiful. It truly is. It truly is.
Definitely vivid that you're doing the work. And again, like even with me, like the transparency is here. Like there are moments where I'm messing up. There are moments where I lose my shit with dealing like with my daughters. It's very testing on emotion, but the key, bro, is the ability to show back up first, take accountability, and admit when I'm wrong. Admit that I chose the wrong reaction in that particular moment. And being that, showing up with that, it teaches a foundation of taking accountability and being vulnerable. Because my whole thing is like, imagine like me reprimanding in like the extreme manner and me not showing up to take accountability for the action within however I need to with her. And now this translates into how she picks and selects a partner. Now the partner is basically replicating ways in which the father showed up. And it's like, bro, we're not having that, you know? So now I'm gonna be mad at the partner. I'm gonna be mad at her for something that I instilled in her for her to even attract that particular type of partner, you know? So again, man, like that's what conscious parenting represents to me. It's not even about the parenting. It is about the parenting, but it's about parenting of the self.
Conscious parenting. I'll write that down. I love that. I know we're coming up on the time, man, because we really been going at it, and it's been beautiful. I'm gonna have you on again in the soapbox, really passing down the value. Yes, sir. So, closing out, is there any one last piece of wisdom that you want to give to the people and even your audience as well, because they will be listening also?
So I'm gonna say for mine, the biggest thing is allow what comes to come and allow what goes to go within every aspect of existence. Again, the biggest thing that I feel like I see so many of us doing is holding on to what no longer belongs to us, that has possibly never belonged to us, and that no longer serves us. So again, within emotions, within thoughts, within it all, allow what comes to come and allow what goes to go. This has been the most single transformative piece of information or sagacity that I have implemented and changed my life drastically. And again, it reminds me of like watching Mother Nature. I go to the beach every single morning, every single evening. I watch the waves come in. I watch the waves go out, bro. It's nothing about that wave that stays up there long term or past its expiration date. It washes it right back out. And it's like, I'm just sitting there and watching how Mother Nature is implementing. Mother Nature is peaceful. Mother Nature is in divinely her right. It's like, why aren't we operating within the same context? Mm-hmm. So again, allow what comes to come and allow what goes to go.
Thank you for that. Please let the people know where that they can find you, your website, and also the Inner Child book is coming up as well. I'm gonna need y'all to check that out.
So y'all can definitely find me at cosmicbyron.com. You can reach me at cosmicbyron on all my platforms, whether it's TikTok, Twitter, IG, all those social media outlets. Actually, real quick, what's up with your book? Where we at?
So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Okay.
So one thing that I have been working on is fathering yourself is the term that I have.
Okay.
And the book is basically going to be about how a young Black boy goes out into the world and he establishes his own foundation of what masculinity is due to a lack of a father figure within his life. And the reason why I chose that is because I think that one major thing that's missing within men today is a ritualistic aspect from boy to man. That's something that no longer exists. And we kind of in our own way have been, in a sense, trying to create that. And the only thing that is really out there is like music and movies, but that doesn't really help us because we're not getting the outcome that we want. Right. So that's what I call it right now. That's just the title, Fathering Ourself. Even a shout out to Folkwood too. He's always on me about the man. He's like, hey brother, you need to write that book because not many people are talking about that. So that's one thing that is in here. I have some notes written down, but I'm taking my time with it. It's not something that I want to rush because I can already sense that it's going to be really vulnerable because I'm gonna share a lot about myself within it of how I got to where I am today.
So like my other only question to that, like, because I know, like, for me, I had to learn that there was a difference between taking my time and procrastinating. Like, yes. How are you on that particular spectrum?
A little bit of both, honestly. And then I think that there's some fear and apprehension along the way, doing something that I've never done before, right? But at the same time, I just need to be honest with myself about just getting it started, just writing, or like committing to, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes a day or 30 minutes a day, because it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of procrastination and it's fear, and it's also giving myself grace along the way as well, if I'm being completely honest with you.
True. And I'm not gonna front, bro. Like, I'm definitely not big on focusing on Z before we complete A and B, but I'm telling you now, this is going to be one of the most challenging aspects that you've ever done, bro. Writing a freaking book.
Yes.
Definitely challenging. And the dopest part about it all is that you were given that idea. I even asked a question, not even of my own, but just surrendering to source, telling me to ask about that. And the fact that your boy is on it, and the fact that a stranger all the way here in the States is now asking you about it in confirmation. Universe works in enigmatic ways, bro. So it's one of those to where, like, now you got two people about to be on you to release that goddamn book.
Definitely. Thank you for that. I appreciate it too, man. I really do. Thank you.
And when it comes to like the process of it all, like, I already got you. You know, like, because you're gonna do self-publishing, KDP.
I don't even know what that is. So that's you see what I'm saying. I need knowledge.
You just focus on the book, and I got you with the rest, bro.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Cosmic Byron, I appreciate y'all for listening. Stay tuned.